Hi, everybody. This is Jackie with Panama Relocation Tours. I hope you can hear me okay. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I tested the audio before, so hopefully it's all working. So I'd love to know where all of you are from. If you could put something in the comment section on where you're from, then I would love to know that. Sound is good. Thank you for letting me know, Margaret and Bill. Good. So this is a really, really important live stream that I'm going to do. And the main reason that I decided to do it, even though we have we have this information on our website, sometimes it's just not that easy to find things because there's so many things and you don't know to necessarily search for it. But I've gotten calls, a lot of calls in the last 12 months of people that sold everything they had. They moved to Panama. Some of them even bought real estate. And then they applied for a visa and they found out that they couldn't get one. They were denied. And I don't want that to happen to any of you. I don't want you to sign up for a tour if you don't qualify to move to Panama. I don't want you to buy the online guide if you don't qualify for moving to Panama. So I'm going to talk about the things that you will absolutely need to know if you qualify for moving to Panama, if you're eligible to move to Panama, and the things that could disqualify you from moving to Panama. Now, I can see all of your questions pouring in over here on the right-hand side, but I'm not going to be able to answer any questions until after I do this presentation. So you may want to hold off on your questions until after I finish talking because they'll be so buried that I won't be able to see them. So we've got audio's excellent and video's good. Good. I found out that if I used a different browser, supposedly it's a little bit better. So I tried that. Monique, thanks. I'm glad you like my top. It's from Amazon. I love Amazon. That's my favorite store here in Panama. So we've got a lot of people that are just now coming in. I'm going to wait just a couple of minutes until everybody gets here because these topics are so important. I want to make sure that everybody is here before I get started. So just to give you a little update on some things that are going on here in Panama before I start talking about the topic for today. Before November, our COVID cases were at about 130 new cases a day. And then in November, we have 5 different holidays, and all of those require parades and festivals and family get-togethers, and the numbers just kind of skyrocketed right after November. And they're still kind of up there. They're like 3,000, 4,000 new COVID cases a day. Luckily, the number of people that are in the hospital has not really increased. So these are milder cases and people are able to stay home. So that's really good news that it's not affecting people too much in milder cases. But we have had an increase in cases, but they've been very mild. Of course, Panama is taking every precaution with biosecurity measures. You still have to wear a mask. There's still social distancing at restaurants and places like that. So it's definitely, they're being very careful. And I appreciate that they're being very careful because I know some countries are not being very careful and they're really having a problem with COVID. But it's under control here in Panama for those people that have sent emails and wondering what's going on with it. So now we have a lot of people that are, here's Lillian is in Coronado right now. I hope you're enjoying Coronado. And people from all over the world are coming in. That's great. Thank you so much for being on our live stream today. So let me start out also with, my name is Jackie Lang, and I moved to Panama in 2010. I live about 10 minutes outside of Boquete, Panama, up at about 5,000 feet. And I have beautiful mountain views and amazing weather every single day. I don't have an air conditioner, I don't have a heater, and I don't need it. So I absolutely love living in Panama because of the weather and the amazing scenery that I have. And it's affordable. And the people are so friendly. There's so many things that I love about living here in Panama. And I know many of you are sick and tired of the cold weather up in Canada or Michigan or some of the other places where it's very, very cold right now. And you're thinking, man, I would love to come down to Panama and just be sipping on a umbrella drink or walking on the beach in Panama. Or maybe you'd like to live up in the mountains where I do, where you can just have your windows open all of the time and you can enjoy the weather. So all those things sound great, and you can certainly come here for a visit. But before you sell your house and sell everything you own and make plans to move to Panama, there's really some important things that you need to know. First of all, is do you even qualify to get a visa? So some of the qualifications for getting a visa, I'll talk about the two most popular visas. One is the Pensionado Visa. To qualify for that visa, you need $1,000 a month of lifetime income, and that's Social Security or a pension from a job. If you're married to someone, then you're going to need another $250. So it's really a low amount, $1,250 in lifetime income for a couple to qualify to get a residency visa here in Panama. Now, there are some things you should know that your income from employment or savings or 401ks or annuities, none of those things will qualify for the Pensionado Visa, with the exception if the annuity was set up by your employer, then Panama will accept that as annuity. But just if you set one up yourself to have lifetime income, Panama will not accept that. So to qualify for the Pensionado Visa, that's what you need, $1,000 a month for one person, $1,250 for a couple. This is all in U.S. dollars. Panama uses the U.S. dollar. If you don't have a pension yet, then the other visa option that you have is the Friendly Nation Visa. We have some new information about the Friendly Nation Visa. The Friendly Nation Visa, you did have three choices. Now there's really four. One choice is that you can get a job here in Panama, but it's a little bit hard to get a job in Panama. I'll talk about that more in the live stream shortly. The other way is that you can buy real estate that's worth at least $200,000, and it is possible for you to get financing for that with about 30% down, or you can deposit $200,000 into a Panama Bank 3-year CD. I would not recommend that you buy real estate right away when you get here. I've talked about this so many times because you really don't know for sure which area you're going to like the best. You might think you're going to like it at the beach, but you could change your mind. Or you might think you're going to like it up in the mountains, but you might decide it's too cold or too far away from Panama City. So don't rush into buying real estate. That's a big mistake that a lot of people make. So another way that you can get the Friendly Nation Visa is you would have to work with just certain immigration attorneys that know how to do this the right way. Is if you have a business, you could bring that business down to Panama by setting up a company in Panama and incorporating here in Panama with your company. And then your company that you set up could hire you. And it's not just any corporation. It has to be a very special setup on this whole situation. You also have to get a business license. You have to get a work permit for you to be able to work in the company. So there's a lot of little details, a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross. We do have all the details about this setting up a business in Panama in our complete Panama relocation guide. So we've got the step-by-step guide and the list of everything you need to do and exactly which attorney that you should use to help you set that up. So that's maybe the more affordable option for some of you that don't have a pension yet and that don't want to put $200,000 into Panama bank account. So, and the total cost for this whole company thing, it's going to be about less than $6,000. So it's an affordable way for you to get that Friendly Nation Visa. It is important to know that if you're going to be working in Panama, if you want to work, if you want to sell any products, if you want to sell any services, a foreigner cannot work in Panama unless they have a work permit. So if you get a Pensionado Visa, you can never get a work permit in Panama. So if you want to work in Panama selling things that you make or working for other people, you have to get a visa that will allow you to get the work permit. When I first moved here, I got a Pensionado Visa because I had no plans to start a tour company. It just sort of happened. So, and there's no way that I could own the business of Panama Relocation Tours, but I couldn't do tours or work in it living here in Panama. So I actually had to renounce my Pensionado Visa and then start all over again with a different visa that allowed me to get a work permit so that I could run Panama Relocation Tours here in the country. Like I said, I didn't plan to start a tour business. It just sort of happened. Now, this is the most important thing that could affect your eligibility to be able to move to Panama. So listen up, everybody. If you have any felonies on your national criminal report, you're not going to be able to get a visa in Panama. It used to be that if a felony happened a long time ago, that Panama would approve it, but now they're not approving anybody that has a felony. Don't worry, I have a plan B for you that I'll talk about in just a little bit. So when you're going to apply for a residency visa, you have to present a criminal report, and it's for your whole country, not just the city or the state that you live in. It's for the country. So if you're from Canada, it's for all of Canada. If you're from the United States, it's a criminal report for all of the United States. Same thing for Australia. You have to present a criminal report for the whole country. So that criminal report, if there's anything on there at all, even if it's a drinking while intoxicated, marijuana possession, or something that happened 40 years ago, then you're going to have to do a special process. It's called, some people call it a vista buena, and some people call it a buena vista. What it means is to get approval. Your attorney will file that buena vista for you with the immigration department with a copy of your criminal report and talk about why, this isn't a problem anymore. You've had a clean record ever since this happened, and that you're going to be a great citizen for here in Panama. So sometimes immigration will say, okay, it happened a long time ago. It was the one little thing that happened, maybe possession of marijuana and or driving while you were drinking, and then you can get approval. But sometimes if it's a felony, you're not going to be able to get approved. So that's important for you to know. So someone's asking, so where can you get this criminal report? Let me talk about that in just a little bit. If you're thinking about moving to Panama in the future, it's better if you don't have any surprises at the last minute. So it's much better if you go ahead and get that criminal report now and find out what might show up on there. It could be something that happened 40 years ago and you've completely forgotten about it. I had someone call me the other day. Something happened in 1967 and it showed up on their criminal report and they'd completely forgotten about it. So, and it's an offense. It's an assault. Assault is another thing. If you were convicted of an assault or if you spent time in prison, then the chances of you getting a visa here are very slim. And you need to know that now before you make plans to move here. Don't worry, I have another plan for you on what you can do if you have a problem. So if you're from the United States, there's a couple of different ways that you can get your criminal report, but I'm going to tell you the fastest way, you can get it in about 30 minutes and it costs about $50. The other way could take 4 months and you don't want to do that. So the fastest way is if you do a Google search for FBI approved Chandler, Chandnelor, I believe, then it has a list of companies that are in your city. It's usually like a UPS store where you can go and do electronic fingerprints, and then they will give you your report. They'll email it to you in about 30 minutes. So you'll be able to get that very quickly. If you're in Canada, it's called a RCMP, that you can get it. In other countries, just Google the name of your country and then criminal report, and it'll have information on how you can get it. But if you're thinking about moving to Panama or any other country, most countries require a criminal report. So you need to know what's going to show up on there now. Now, some people have asked, well, couldn't I get it expunged? The problem is if you get it expunged, it's taken off, but it's going to show up on your criminal report is that you had something expunged. So Panama looks at that as well. That's even more suspicious. There was something so bad on here, they didn't want us to see it. And so now they've hidden it, and you're still going to have a very hard time. And even if it's expunged, Panama has ways of getting to that information. They can do an Interpol investigation, and they can check you out. Speaking of that, if you do have things on your criminal report, let's say from Canada, and if there's a couple of things on Canada, one of the things that there's a questionnaire that you have to fill out to get a visa. And one of the things they ask you on that questionnaire is, have you had any other convictions or been arrested in any other country besides the country where you're from? You need to answer that honestly, because if you say no, and then they do an Interpol investigation and they find out you were arrested in Mexico or you were arrested in Puerto Rico, then you're instantly going to be denied and you're going to be blacklisted that you can never, ever apply again. I'm going to tell you a sad story of something that happened just last week. A young couple called me. They sold everything they had, sold their house, sold everything they had. They moved to Panama, sight unseen, and they didn't want to spend money on rent. They wanted to go ahead and buy something. So they got with a real estate agent and to buy a house to live in right away. And they thought, well, we're going to get all settled and then we'll apply for our visa. Well, guess what? His visa was denied. And he thought, well, maybe it's just the attorney. They don't know what they're doing. So he hired a different attorney that tried to get him approved for a residency visa. Once again, he was denied a second time. So he contacted me thinking I can fix everything, and said, do you know who can get me approved? And I said, well, what was the charge? And he said it was, felony charge and also illegal possession of a firearm. And I said, you're not going to get approved. It's not going to happen here in Panama. So now they can't stay here. As a tourist, a foreigner can only stay, if you're from the US or Canada, you can stay for 180 days. Some countries that are coming in to visit Panama, they can only stay for 30 days. So here's this guy, he's spent all this money to get here, bought a house, bought a car, and he can't get approved for a visa. I don't want that to happen to you. You need to check out the visa situation, your national criminal report. Go ahead and pull that. Pull it right now if you're thinking about moving to Panama. Even if you're going to move next year or 2 years from now, go ahead and pull that criminal report and see what's on it. And if there's anything on there, I recommend that you contact a Panama immigration attorney, and they'll ask you to email it to them or fax it to them so that they can take a look at it and say, what are my chances of getting a visa based on the things that are on this national criminal report? So if you have some dings on your criminal report, it's really important for you to do that and to check that out. The other thing is when you're get your national criminal report and you're ready to apply for a visa, it's absolutely essential that the name that's on your passport and the name that's on your criminal report are exactly the same. For example, if your middle name is John Leroy Smith and it just says John Smith on the national criminal report, they'll deny it. You won't be able to get a visa. It has to say John Leroy Smith. It has to be exactly the same. So it's extremely important that they all match. But get that criminal report right away. Even if you know you've never ever been arrested, then you're not going to have to worry about it. If you've ever gotten even a traffic ticket, I would say go ahead and get your criminal report. It's only going to cost about $50 just to make sure. The other thing that happens once in a while is there's something that will show up on your criminal report and it wasn't even you. So if you're planning on moving to Panama later, then you can get with an attorney in your country and hopefully they can get it cleared up and get it off of there if you can prove that it really was not you. But the expunging does not work. Panama knows that you're going to be expunged. I do know someone recently, he's been denied 2 times for getting a visa here in Panama. And then he got with another person that said, hey, I know that if we just give them $10,000, then we're going to be able to get you approved for a visa. And so he gave him the $10,000 thinking he was going to get approved for a visa. And guess what? The guy took his $10,000 and he still didn't get a visa. It just disappeared. So don't let that happen to you. So what if you have something on your criminal report and you're not going to be able to move to Panama? I love Panama. I love living in Panama, but if you just can't move here, you can't move here. So you should know that if you move to Mexico, they don't even require you to provide a national criminal report. So if you have something on your criminal report that would prevent you from getting a visa here in Panama, you could get one. You could get a visa in Mexico if you meet their requirements. And their income requirements are either monthly income or how much money you have in your savings account. You don't have to buy real estate. You don't have to deposit money in a bank account in Mexico. You just have to show them how much money you have. They want to know that you can support yourself. So my daughter-in-law, Mariana, she owns a website called MexicoRelocationGuide.com, and you can learn more about getting a residency visa in Mexico there. So Panama is not going to work for you. I can tell you that many other countries also require a national criminal report. Ecuador does, Colombia does, Costa Rica does. Most countries require a national criminal report and you would be denied. Mexico is one of the few countries that you can get a visa without presenting a national criminal report. So the other thing, I'm going to take all your questions after I get through this important information on some things that could make you not eligible or not really be able to move to Panama. The other thing that could make it not possible for you to Panama is if you have some pre-existing health conditions that are, if it's just diabetes or if it's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, the usual stuff, then that's not going to be a problem. But if you have any other more significant health problems, then it might not work out for you to move to Panama. And let me tell you why. You can get health insurance in Panama and they will exclude pre-existing conditions, but they up to three pre-existing conditions they will still insure you. But the problem is you won't be able to get insurance on those things for at least 2 years. So if you move here and you have some kind of a recommended health problem, then you're not going to be able to get any kind of health care. That means that you're going to have to pay out of pocket for any medical care at all. Now, if you just go to a doctor, it's going to cost $10, $15, $20 to go to a doctor. If you go to the public hospital, it's only going to be $2 to $5 for you to see a doctor at the public hospital. So it's super affordable. But if you have a problem with one of those pre-existings or anything else, it's going to cost about $1,000 a day for you to be in the hospital, or perhaps even more. When I was in the hospital for 9 days with COVID, my cost was $15,000 at the private hospital. I just got an email yesterday from someone that was in the hospital with some intestinal problems, and they were here as a tourist. 5 days in the hospital was $5,000. So if you're coming here on an extremely limited budget and you have some health problems, then Panama might not work for you. Now, if you're a U.S. citizen and you have Medicare, certain Medicare plans, then they will cover an emergency or urgent care, but usually overseas. They'll cover those things overseas, but you're usually going to have to pay for it up front, and then you'll have to file a claim to get reimbursed later. So hopefully you have some credit cards that will have plenty of room on your credit card for you to charge the $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 that it might cost for you to be in the hospital here in Panama if you have a heart attack, or if you have an automobile accident, or if you have a stroke, or if any of those medical emergencies happen and you're not able to get insurance here in Panama. The other thing, if you have pre-existing conditions, then you probably take some medications. And people have learned that some medications here in Panama are much cheaper than even the copay where you live. But some medications here in Panama actually cost more than what you would have paid for the very same medication in Panama. So before you pack your bags and before you decide to move to Panama, you need to investigate if your medications are available here in Panama. There's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can call one of the pharmacies. The two biggest pharmacies are Arrocha, Arrocha, or Revilla, Revilla, are two big pharmacies. You can call them and you can ask if the medication is available and what it would cost. The other thing in our complete Panama relocation guide, we have information. We have a special link that you can check any medication ever that's here in Panama, every single medication and what it costs. So that's in our complete Panama relocation guide. Also, if you go to the very top of the Panama relocation tour website and click on do the search at the very top right hand side and just put in the word drug, DRUG. We do have a report that lists the 50 most common medications that are prescribed in North America, and it lists if they're available here in Panama and what they cost in Panama, the cost comparison. So that's the top 50. But if your medication is not on that list, we do have a way inside our complete Panama relocation guide to check anything. Any kind of a medication that's available. Even if you move to Panama, you should know that if you do get insurance, most insurance here in Panama does not cover any medications. So if you think you're going to be able to get that covered with insurance, it's probably not going to happen here in Panama. If you have Medicare or if you Canadian insurance, you may be able to get your prescriptions filled in your country and then sent to Panama. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not. If you're a veteran that's retired, or if you were discharged with a disability, then you may be able to get some of your medications filled here in Panama and get free health care here in Panama if you're retired from the U.S. military, or if you were discharged with a disability, then you can get health care without getting insurance here in Panama. But these are important things for you to investigate before you sell your house and pack your bags and decide to move here. The other important thing for you to investigate before you decide to move here is your budget. And this is going to be doing some soul searching. Whatever your budget is now, whatever it costs you to live there right now, it's going to be substantially less for you to move in Panama. But how much less? Well, you don't know. It depends on where you're going to live. If you live in Panama City or if you live in Coronado, then the costs are going to be quite a bit more. And there's some seven beautiful gated communities here in Boquete where I live. And rents start at about $1,200, $1,500, $2,500 in those. But if you live outside of a gated community, you can get a nice rental for, $500, $600, $700 a month. If you live in some areas here in Panama, like David or the Eastern Azura, you can get a really nice house for under $600 a month. And this is furnished and usually includes most, if not all, of the utilities. So you need to do some crunching on what your budget's going to be. And I'm going to, after this video, I'm going to put something on our website that has a little chart to give you a general idea of what's your cell phone going to cost, what's the electricity going to cost, what's it going to cost for car insurance, what's it going to cost for all kinds of other things to help you come up with a budget to see if it matches what you're going to be able to live on here in Panama. So let me look at my notes real quick. So in most areas in Panama, a single person should be able to live very well for about $1,500 a month. A couple can live for about $2,000 a month. In some of the more expensive areas, or if you're in a more expensive house than $700, then you're going to have to adjust it. It might be $2,500 a month or $3,500, depending on where you live. But like I said, after this live stream, I'm going to put something on our website that has a sample budget that's accurate for 2022 to help you know what the budget's going to be. There's more things that you have to consider, though, to know if you're going to be able to come to Panama. Yes, there's a monthly budget that you're going to have whenever you live here, but you also have to take into consideration your upfront cost to move to Panama. Upfront costs are things like you probably should do an exploratory trip. I would not recommend that you just sell everything and move to Panama without coming to see it first. Most people love it, but some people get here and they don't like it at all because it's not like where they live. So you're going to have money for that exploratory trip. You could take one of our Panama relocation tours or perhaps one of our private tours, or you might want to just do a self-guided tour. We do have information in the complete Panama relocation guide on how to do a self-guided tour, and it has how to get there, where to stay, how to meet other expats, where's the best place to go shopping, suggested restaurants, all kinds of things are in that information. But you're going to have to budget an exploratory trip to come here and then your actual move to come here. If you're bringing pets, that has to be added in, and I have information on that I'll be posting after this live stream. But also, what's it going to cost to get a visa? Do you have enough money to get a visa? Do you have enough money to pay the deposit and the first month's rent on your rental? You've got to stock up your refrigerator. That could cost $300, $500 to stock up your refrigerator. So there's all kinds of expenses that you're going to have when you first move here, and you've got to decide if you're going to be able to have enough money to actually move here. Some people contact me and they say, oh, I need to find a rental that's less than $300 a month, and I can't afford your tour, and I can't afford to get the complete Panama relocation guide. Well, guess what? If your budget is less than $300 a month and you can't afford the $600 for the complete Panama relocation guide, then you probably can't afford to get a visa either. And if you don't get a visa, you're not going to be able to live in Panama. So you could waste the airfare to get here and then find out it's not going to work. So I'm trying to make sure that you know in advance, before you ever get here, if this whole Panama thing is going to work. Can you get a visa? Are you going to be able to afford it? For those of you that cannot get the Pensionado Visa because you don't have a pension, and for those of you that don't have a business that you're already running that you can move here to Panama, or you don't have $200,000 to deposit into a bank account, your only other option for getting a residency visa that's affordable would be to get a job. And I can tell you that it's pretty hard for a foreigner to get a job in Panama. The reason is because the Panamanian law says that 90% of the workforce in a company needs to be Panamanian. That means only 10% can be foreigners. Some of the multinational companies, they do have some wiggle room in that, and they can hire some more foreigners if there's a particular skill set that they're not able to hire here in Panama, and you just happen to have that skill set, then you may be able to do it. But also some jobs in Panama are protected for Panamanians only. If you're an accountant, you can't do that in Panama. If you're a lawyer or a doctor, only Panamanians can do that in Panama. If you're a counselor, only Panamanians can do that in Panama. So you need to get with an immigration attorney, and we have recommendations in our complete Panama relocation guide to determine if the thing you want to do here is even possible. Engineers is another one. Only a Panamanian can be an engineer. So the other thing that I want to discuss on why Panama might not work for you is if there's going to be deal breakers that are here in Panama. So what's a deal breaker? It's something that you absolutely have to have in your life, but it's not available here in Panama for one reason or another. So you need to be making a list of things you absolutely have to have in your life. And when you come to do your exploratory trip or come on one of our private tours, then you can determine if that thing is going to be available here. So here's an example. Let's say that there's a medication that you take and you cannot get it here in Panama, and you can't get it shipped to Panama, and you need that medication to survive. Well, then Panama's not going to work out for you. It could be something as simple as, do you like half and half in your coffee? Well, if you live in Panama City, you can buy half and half, but if you live outside of Panama City, you can't buy half and half. Is that going to be a deal breaker for you, or can you make your own half and half, or go with some other kind of a coffee creamer? Some people are really picky about what they put in their coffee. The other thing is, if you love to do online shopping like Amazon, where I got this top, and you are used to getting things delivered, ordered on Amazon and get it delivered to your house the next day. Sometimes I think you can even do it the same day, or grocery delivery to your house the same day. Well, guess what? Those things don't happen here in Panama. Yes, you can order on Amazon, but it's going to take 7 to 10 days for the product to get here. And it's going to cost about $3 a pound extra. Even if you've got free shipping with Amazon, you can get free shipping to your mail forwarding address that's in Florida, but then you have to pay to get it from Florida here to Panama, and that's going to cost about $3 a pound. So if you do most of your shopping online, that could be a deal breaker for you. Not getting your medications, not being able to shop the way you like to shop. Now, you may be able to just adjust. I did, and a lot of people do. They adjust whenever they move here, but some people, they can't. They can't adjust to it. The other thing is that you should know that Panama is a Spanish-speaking country. The primary language here is Spanish. Now, there's a lot of places where you can live, like in Coronado and Boquete, where there's so many expats that a lot of people in those towns speak English. Even if you go to the bank, they speak English. Doctors speak English. Um, Restaurants will have the menu in English and Spanish, but in the other places, English is not so widely spoken. So some of you may get comfortable with that and pick up just a little bit of Spanish goes a long way. But some of you might get frustrated that the Panamanians don't speak English, and it's not their job to learn English. It's your job to learn some Spanish. But if that's going to frustrate you, then it might not work out for you. So what would you do? Here's an example. Let's say that you think you want to live in Panama. You found this place. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's super affordable. You can afford it, but you're just not sure. You're kind of, well, maybe I do, maybe I don't want to. You might want to give Panama a 6-month test drive. If you're from North America, you can stay in Panama for 6 months. So you might just lock up your house or get a house sitter to stay in your house or rent it out for 6 months and then come to Panama for 6 months and give it a test drive. And don't do it with the eyes on like a tourist. Don't pretend like you're a tourist the whole time. I'm talking about go to the grocery store, cook food, eat where other people are eating, order things on Amazon, see if you can get your medications. So you might want to give Panama a 6-month test drive to make sure that it's going to work for you. So let me see. So once you've determined that you can get a visa, you know what your budget is, and you visited Panama and you've decided where you're going to do, then you need to, and there's not going to be any deal breakers, that it's going to work for you, then it's time to start making your plans to move to Panama. And that's where we come in with Panama Relocation Tours. We have a lot of information to help you make that move as smooth and easy as possible. We have recommendations of immigration attorneys for you to work with, recommendations of property managers and real estate people that we know that they're honest. Not all people are honest here in Panama, unfortunately. Someone bought a car about 2 months ago, and it turned out to be a lemon, and they're not doing anything about it. But we know which people we can refer you to, so you're not going to have to run into those problems that could end up costing you a lot of money for making a mistake. So here at Panama Relocation Tours, either through our tours or through our complete Panama relocation guide, we have all the information to help you. And if you do either one of those, then you get invited to our private Facebook group where we offer ongoing support. I answer questions all day, every day. And there, where do you get this done? Where do you get this done? How do you do that? So it's not just me that's helping you, but also all the people that have come on a tour before and that have already moved here to Panama. They're all willing to do whatever they can to help you move to Panama. So those are some things to consider that may make it not possible to move to Panama. I hope that's nobody on this call, but you need to know now before you actually move here. So after this call, I'm going to take your questions in just a little bit. So after this call, I'm going to post my notes that I typed up and also that budget that I talked about to help you come up with a very good budget. So now I'm going to take your questions. Now, this is not a call, so I can't push a button and you get to ask your question. You're going to have to type in your question, and then I'll click on it and I will ask it. So if you have any questions for me, then you can ask them now. So someone mentioned that Nicaragua is very cheap. You might want to watch Bob Adams' most recent YouTube video. And so if you go to youtube.com and click on Bob Adams, then he talked about, why Panama is a good place to move to. But also, yes, Nicaragua is cheap, but why is it cheap? They always have problems there. I know many people that had a lot of problems. And any country that you're considering moving to, you need to find out if you have things on your criminal report, if they're going to require a criminal report, because a lot of countries are getting really picky about that right now. Mexico is one of the few countries where you do not need to present a national criminal report, and you may need a little bit more income for a pensionado, like $1,500 a month, but it's super easy to get a visa there. So let me see. This question is, Jackie, in regard to the FBI individual history check, does it need to be signed by an FBI official, or does the color copy of the report work? So the color copy from the Chandler is all that you need. It does not have to be signed. Now, whenever you are actually ready to apply for your visa, then the National Criminal Report does have to be authenticated by the Panama Consulate. But if you're just pulling your FBI report to show it to an immigration attorney to say, hey, this is on here, do you think I'm going to be able to get a visa? Then all you need is just that one piece of paper. Once you're ready to come down and actually apply for a visa, then you're definitely going to need to get it authenticated by the Panama Consulate. Okay, next question. My FBI report is clear, but apostilled. I'll say, so an apostille, so let me explain the difference between an authentication and an apostille. An apostille is whenever you get a document authenticated by the State Department. And this has to be the federal State Department that's in Virginia. That could take 3 or 4, sometimes 5 months to get an apostille. So I would mark that off the list. Instead, you should just get an authentication at the Panama Consulate. It'll take a day or two. So just get the authentication at the Panama Consulate. So what is the average cost for an attorney in the Boquete region for 2 people? Well, first of all, it's better not to use an attorney in the Boquete area. I would recommend using one in David because they're much more affordable. Also, there's no immigration office in Boquete, so you couldn't even get your visa in Boquete if you wanted to. There is an immigration office in David. So the cost for the attorney depends on which visa that you're going to get. If it's the Pensionado Visa, it's about $1,500 to $2,000. $1,500 for one person, $2,000 for a couple to get a visa. So it's not very much. So another question is, cancer in remission going to be a problem? Yes, you would not be able to get approved for insurance if you had cancer. Let's see, some of these are other people asking. So this one says, can I take my disability check to Panama? I'm not retirement age. So there's 2 things about the disability check. It's not so much that you would want to take it to Panama. You'd probably go ahead and have your disability check deposited into an account where you live. And then you could open up a Panama bank account and you could wire the money down to Panama. The problem is that in some, you need to check with Social Security, because in some situations, if you're outside of the United States more than 6 months, they will cancel your disability check. It needs to be a lifetime disability check for you to even be able to qualify for a visa. So if it's a temporary situation, then you would not qualify for a visa. So this is Charles. Jackie, if you have a pension, can you pay yourself as an employee of your newly formed corporation from your pension fund in order to meet the requirements for the Friendly Nation visa? So Charles, if you have a pension, I would recommend that you go ahead and get the Pensionado Visa. It's the least expensive visa to get. The other thing you should know is that with a Pensionado Visa, you get your permanent visa in less than 6 months. If you get the Friendly Nation visa, you only get a temporary visa for the first 2 years, and then you have to apply for the permanent visa, additional attorney fees to get your permanent visa. So if you already have a pension, you should definitely go with a Pensionado Visa. Here's another good question. I won't start drawing Social Security for another 7 years. I have a substantial IRA as well. Will I be able to get a Pensionado Visa no? You have to already be drawing your Social Security. You have to already be getting your pension check for you to qualify for the Pensionado Visa. So IRAs, 401ks, rental income, employment from a job, none of those things will qualify for Pensionado Visa in Panama, so that would not work. You could get the Friendly Nation Visa, but it's going to cost more for the Friendly Nation Visa. And one of the reasons that it costs more, for the Pensionado Visa, the Panama government waives their government fees, which are about $1,100. But whenever you get the Friendly Nation Visa, they do not waive the fees. So it costs more to get that visa. So Panama, Brian says, if I take a Panama relocation tour, is the relocation guide provided for free as part of the tour? Yes, it is. If you take a Panama relocation tour, then right after your tour, you will get free access to the complete Panama relocation guide. And you also get free access to our private Facebook group where we offer ongoing support, and you're going to need it. You're going to need that support. Whenever you're moving here, you're going to have a lot of questions, and we'll be right there to hold your hand and help you with it. Another question, is there a list of disqualifiers, health, that I have a heart defect, but I'm not on meds and have no issues? I can ask my insurance agent if she can give me a list of disqualifiers. Any kind of a pre-existing condition like a heart defect, I think would probably disqualify you. If you've had cancer, that'll disqualify you. Even if you have high blood pressure or high cholesterol, that disqualifies you. If you have diabetes, it disqualifies you. So there's all kinds of things here that will disqualify you. Now, the good thing is if you have Medicare, if you're from the United States and you have Medicare, then you can be covered. If you have the right Medicare plan, you can be covered here in Panama for urgent care or for emergencies, regardless of any pre-existing conditions. So next question, our son has cerebral palsy. Would we be able to bring him? He's 32. Our pension can support him. So yes, you would be able to bring your son, and he could be a dependent under your Pensionado Visa, provided that you have a letter from his doctor that says that you're his primary caregiver. Then you would be able to get him a pension as a dependent under your Pensionado Visa. So how long can a U.S. person visit Panama? Someone from the United States can visit Panama as a tourist for 180 days. But there's a catch. There's all these catches here in Panama. And that is that you can only drive for the first 90 days that you're going to be in the country. But you don't have to worry about it. The buses are great. Taxis are everywhere. Uber's in Panama City. But you can visit for 180 days. Another question, would it be possible to get a good rental furnished in Boquete for $650 to $750? Yes, it would be. Actually, I have one available right now. I have a lot of owners that contact me that whenever they have a rental, because they know I don't charge a commission, I don't want any kickbacks or anything. So when they have rentals, then they let me know about it. If they went to a real estate agent, they would want 50 to 100% of the first month's rent. So I get a lot of leads about really good rentals. I have one right now. It's a North American style granite countertops, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, about 3 blocks to Main Street in downtown Boquete, and it's $750 a month. That includes all utilities, fiber optic internet, covered parking, and everything. So I get some great deals. The problem is it's available on February the 1st. So unless you're moving here pretty soon, it's going to be long gone. So next question, what about pre-existing with U.S. federal retirement health insurance? So if you have U.S. federal retirement health insurance, you'd have to check with that insurance policy to see if it's covered. I can tell you in Panama, they're not, if you show them your insurance card, they're not going to take it. You're going to have to pay for any medical care that you get up front, and then you'll have to file a claim for that through the federal retirement health insurance. So another question, are wheelchairs and wheelchair accessible vans available to buy or rent? No, they're not available here in Panama. I've never seen one, never seen them available here. Next question, Jackie, if I sent you my background report and you had one of your lawyers look at it and they said I have no problem getting a Buena Vista, that hasn't changed, right? Well, first of all, Bill, don't send it to me. I don't need to see your FBI report. You need to send it directly to one of the immigration attorneys. And usually the immigration attorney is going to tell you, we have a 50% chance of getting you approved, or we have an 80% chance, or we have a 90% chance, or we have a 0% chance of getting you approved. The immigration attorneys are going to be honest. It does cost extra money to get that Buena Vista. It's about $1,000, I think, to get the Buena Vista. But you definitely need to send it to an immigration attorney and get that approved. You know, I've had so many situations where over the years, people have come to Panama and they applied for the Buena Vista and they thought, oh, it's not going to be a problem. I'm going to get approved. And they went ahead and bought real estate right away. And then it came back that their Buena Vista was denied. So there was no way that they could get approved. There's also, and you need to be aware of this, don't buy real estate until you have a permanent visa, because there have been situations where people got a Buena Vista approved. They even got their temporary visa approved. And then in that time between the temporary visa and the permanent visa, they were denied. And it was put in there, you know, that they could never, ever apply for a visa again. So hold off on buying real estate until you have that permanent visa. Next question, is there a list of what Medicare plans are acceptable for people with high blood pressure? There isn't a list of what Medicare plans are available, but in our complete Panama relocation guide, we have an expat Medicare expert that you can call, and he will evaluate which plans are available to you and give you advice on the top 1 or 2 that you should go with. There's no cost at all for using his service, and there's no cost at all for you to switch to the right kind of Medicare plan. Now, you might be thinking, oh, but I can only switch Medicare during this open enrollment timeframe. Whenever you're switching to one of these plans, you can do it anytime during the year. So it doesn't have to be just during certain times. Next question, maybe I missed it during the presentation, but did new COVID vaccination policies for 22 you mentioned in a previous live stream? So there's no, Panama has COVID vaccinations, but there's no requirement to get a COVID vaccine. It's still voluntary if you want to get it. Let's kind of stick with the topic of getting a visa. Jackie, what if you were born in another country and then later in your life you became an American citizen, arrived in the USA under a job visa? So if you've lived in the United States for a long time, then you would get your national criminal report from the United States. It would not be necessary to get one from another country. That's another, but if you haven't lived in the United States very long, then you may have to get a criminal report for both the United States and the country that you moved from. Next question, Jackie, I'm tired of renting vehicles in Panama. Can I own a vehicle and get insurance for it for use when in Panama? So yes, without having a visa, you can buy a vehicle and you can get insurance. Keep in mind, though, that you can only drive in Panama for the first, if you don't have a visa, you can only drive in Panama for the first 90 days that you're here. And then once you get your visa, this is important, once you get your visa, even a temporary visa, you can't drive on your foreign license at all. You have to get a Panama driver's license. Next question. Thanks, Jackie, for once again providing a first-class streaming with important information. You're welcome, Charles, and thank you so much for being here. I've got 677 people on this live stream, and the questions are just pouring in. So I'm trying to get to them all as much as I can, but there's so many questions I can't possibly do it, but I'm working on it. So Marcy says, is there a local person where I live that offers notary, FBI, electronic fingerprint, and apostille? Does this meet the requirements? So Marcy, what you'll need to do is you can, you're not really the notary. What you need to do is go to FBI, do a Google search for FBI approved Chandler. That's where you can get your FBI electronic fingerprints, and that'll be close to where you live. And then for any of the other documents that you gather up, like your income for Social Security, certified copy of your marriage certificate, all those different documents that you need to apply for a visa, they all have to be authenticated. Remember, you don't want to do apostille. It takes too long. You want to get the documents authenticated by the Panama consulate, not by the Secretary of State of California. It needs to be authenticated by the Panama consulate. Now, you could hire someone to do that for you, but there's really no need. You just put them in a FedEx envelope or DHL envelope with a little note that says, I'm moving to Panama and I need all these authenticated to get a visa, and then include a self-addressed stamped envelope for it to all come back to you right away, and that's all you need to do. So Jackie, thanks for a very informative session. I look forward to meeting you in October too. So another question, if husband works online for an American company, does he need to do anything special to do so? So this is the situation. If you work for a company in another country and you're working online, then you can do that with a Pensionado Visa. No problem. If you get a Pensionado Visa, you can work for another company. Panama, if you're going to be selling a product or selling a service in Panama, then you need to get a work permit. But if you're working online, then you do not need to get a work permit, and you can use the Pensionado Visa. So I hope that answers your question, Patricia. Next question, can you leave Panama for one day to Costa Rica and be able to drive again when you come back? Well, Robert, you used to be able to do that, but Panama changed the rules. So if you're here for 180 days as a tourist and you want to continue, you can only drive for 90 days. You have to leave for 30 days before you can come back and be able to drive again. That's what the law says. The reality is that if you fly out of the country and fly back in, then they would probably let you back in, even if you haven't been out 30 days. But if you drive or take a bus to Costa Rica and want to come back in, that worked 10 years ago, but it doesn't work anymore now. So no, you wouldn't be able to do that. And Monique, if you apply for a Friendly Nation visa and create a corporation, do you need to produce a certain amount of income? Can it be an online business? So yes, you do have to produce a certain amount of income. You have to make at least $1,000 a month if you create the corporation, and then the corporation hires you as an employee. You need to make at least $1,000 a month. It can be an online business. Some of the online businesses, I have other little online businesses. I have one company that does training for real estate investors. That's an online business. I also buy domain names and flip them. Just 2 days ago, I bought a domain name for $9 and I sold it for $797 about 5 days after I bought it. It's something I've been doing for 20 years. I also sell ebooks on Amazon. So I have all kinds of multiple streams of income. And that's something I encourage everybody to do. Even if you're retired, there's some things that you can do that don't take much of your time, and yet they can provide enough income to basically pay for you to live here in Panama. So next question, Jose, if we get an FBI background check just to check our criminal record, do we still have to get an FBI criminal report when we get ready to move to Panama? Very good question, Jose. Thank you for asking that question. So when you get ready to move to Panama and apply for a visa, the documents that you present to immigration to get a visa, which would be your FBI report, proof of your income, if you're married, certified marriage certificate, All those documents to get a visa cannot be more than 6 months old. So if you got the FBI report now and you're not moving to Panama for a year, then you wouldn't be able to use that same criminal report. But if you got the FBI report now and you're moving to Panama within 6 months, then yes, it would work just fine. So another question I saw floating in here someplace, but I can't find it right now. So if you were to move to Panama and you set up a corporation for a friendly nation visa and you were working in that, then someone wanted to know, would that qualify for the foreign earned income exclusion? So let me discuss a little bit what is a foreign earned income exclusion. If you're a U.S. citizen and you're working overseas, you live overseas full time and you're working overseas, and you're being paid by a foreign company, by your Panama company, then you can make up to $112,000 and not have to pay any taxes on it in the United States. And if it's, let's say, an online business, then you wouldn't owe any taxes in Panama either. So isn't that an amazing thing that you can make $112,000 and have no taxes in Panama and no taxes in the United States? There are some, other rules and regulations. You have to live overseas full time. You have to be paid by a Panama company. You cannot be back in the United States more than 30 days in a whole calendar year. So there's all kinds of little rules and regulations, but I have a whole article about that. If you do a search in the blog, I just put up a new article a few days ago about making $112,000 tax-free when you move to Panama. So look for that article on PanamaRelocationTours.com and then click on blog, and you'll see the $112,000 in the title. Another question, Joe, I work online remotely for a U.S. company. I have no pension, but some cash in the bank. What visa do I need to move there and keep working? So, Joe, you would have to get the Friendly Nation visa for you to be able to move here and to continue working. And let me talk just a little bit about what some of the other visa options are, which are not, they all require significant financial investment. One of them is to get a business visa. So if you were to buy an existing business, you would need to spend at least $160,000 and you're required to hire 5 Panamanian employees. Another visa is called the reforestation visa. Minimum investment is $80,000 plus $2,000 if you have a spouse that's applying with you. There's also something called the golden visa, which you will get your permanent visa within 6 months. That requires minimum investment of $300,000 in real estate or $500,000 in the Panama stock market. So see, this is why I don't even talk about these other visas. They're so expensive. Whenever the Friendly Nation visa and the Pensionado Visa are definitely the better way to go. So I'm going to take one more question. Could you provide me with an immigration attorney that can send an FBI report to before moving? So yes, I can. So in our complete Panama relocation guide, we have a list of immigration attorneys. We have some in Panama City, some close to Coronado. We have some in the Azuero. We have some in the David area. So we have a list of immigration attorneys that we know are excellent, that would do a really good job in that complete Panama relocation guide. So I want to thank everybody. It's been an hour and my dinner's ready. So I want to thank everybody so much for being on this call and for all of your great questions. Next Saturday, we'll do another. I don't know if we're going to do a live stream or a conference call. I'll decide. But I want to thank you so much for taking your time to be with me this Saturday evening to learn about some important things that you need to consider before you pack your bags and make plans to move to Panama. I hope that this call didn't eliminate some of you from being able to make that move, but it's important for you to know that now instead of finding it out later. So thanks again for being on the call, everybody, and I hope you have a great weekend.